Mental Health Monday on Radio City Talk with Mick Coyle.
Radio City Talk.
Welcome to another edition of Mental Health Monday from Radio City Talk. My name's Mick Coyle. I do hope you're well. We're just coming off the back of the weekend with the London Marathon. I just wanted to give a quick mention to, obviously, everybody who took part in the London Marathon, 40,000 people. Incredible achievements as well. I know a couple of people who took part. I just wanted to give a quick mention to Christian Walsh, who's been on the programme before, one of the very first editions, I think, of Mental Health Monday. He was running for Mind, the charity, and he raised around about £2,000, just over £2,000 as well. It was an absolutely scorching day. He had cramp and all sorts, but he got all the way around. Absolutely did. Well done to Christian there, raising money for Mind. If over the next week or so people want to email the programme and talk about any fundraising events that they've been involved in, or if they've done the London Marathon, particularly those with a mental health charity in mind, do let us know. More than happy to give them a mention on the programme right here on Mental Health Monday. Now, my guest on the programme this week joins us in the studio, having emailed the programme. And at the start of every programme, I always say, if you're involved in an event, if you want to raise issues around mental health, you want to tell your story, email me, and more than happy to give you a mention on the programme or invite you in. That's exactly what has happened with Sarah. And Sarah Sadler joins us in the studio now. Sarah, it's great to see you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much for the invite in. I wasn't expecting that, to be honest, when I did email you.
Sometimes people email the programme and they just want to get something mentioned or raise my awareness of a particular story, and more than happy to. But sometimes I think, well, if they've emailed it because there might be, value in telling that story, the offer always goes out there. You've accepted the offer, so thank you for coming in. You contacted the programme because you had details of an event you were putting together, and you're putting together the event for really sad reasons, but hopefully this event will have sort of really positive connotations, and this is all to do with your fiancé, Rich. Can you tell us about Rich?
I can, yeah. So I met Rich just over 4 years ago, actually on the steps at Lime Street train station, and it was love at first sight. When you meet someone, you go, oh, there you are. He was my home, and we were together for 3.5 years before he passed away last September the 20th. So first 18 months was amazing, and then it slowly became apparent that Rich was struggling with something else. That then turned out to be bipolar, and at that point then he was self-medicating with alcohol as well. So I just want to raise this event to hopefully try and get guys talking and try and get this normal conversation about male mental health, because I think that us women, we sort of offload and we talk to each other, whereas guys don't tend to do that, and you tend to bottle things up a little bit more than what women do. So I'm just hoping this event will make that a normal conversation for guys to have, and hopefully change the direction of where mental health is at for guys at the moment.
What was your reading in terms of the first 18 months where things, seemed to be,
They were, it was amazing. I mean, the thing with bipolar is it can actually be quite fun. He was very confident. He was incredibly articulate. He's so smart. He was funny. He was the most caring guy that you'd ever meet. You met Rich, you just felt that you had a new best friend, and you genuinely did with Rich. He was very caring. He was just a beautiful human being. But over time, the stress and strain of bipolar and trying to manage that on his own, because he wasn't diagnosed at that point, was just becoming harder and harder for him to bear on his own. And it wasn't until a suicide attempt in the June of 2016 that was at the point then when he had his diagnosis of bipolar.
Were there times before that suicide attempt where you were aware that his mental health was suffering? I mean, we're only going back a couple of, years really, but, awareness of mental health has come on leaps and bounds even in that time. What was the sort of mindset and the process at the time there?
It was pretty hard because a lot of people around you tend to see the results of his behaviour rather than trying to get to the root problem. And so, family members wouldn't really understand, why is he drinking too much? He just needs to do this and he just needs to do that and then he'll be fine. And it was trying to get through to them, actually, there's something else going on here. He would take himself on long walks, or he would cook food, but he'd spend hours doing it. You could tell he was doing his little rituals to try and get himself through the day. And it just wasn't, his behaviour just was not right. But trying to get anyone to listen to you, even the doctors, he went to go to the GP, and the GP gave him antidepressants. Now, the worst thing that you can give someone bipolar is an antidepressant, because it will stop the low, but it doesn't stop the high. So his manic highs would go up, and his behaviour would be erratic, because then he was self-medicating with alcohol as well. Trying to get to the root problem when everyone just saw the result of what he was doing, his act outs. So, yeah, that was pretty tough.
And in terms of the self-medication and the using alcohol as
Yeah.
well, did that then muddy the waters
Of
about how
course.
people either perceive the problems or indeed what the problem actually might be?
That's it, of course, yeah. They just saw him drinking too much as the problem, rather than something was underlying, something wasn't right. And it wasn't until he tried to kill himself that everyone then realised, oh, right, something else is going on. But it shouldn't have got to that crisis point. But like it's the awareness. I don't think enough people were aware around him. They were just too consumed with the result and not what was going on underneath.
I mean, now when you hear about people who live with bipolar as a condition, it's almost used as a throwaway line for like celebrities a little bit. Oh, she's bipolar, which kind of explains sort of slightly erratic behaviour. But in reality, living with bipolar, living with somebody with the condition, I imagine those highs and lows, those ups and downs. Is it about, from your point of view, were you trying to manage those situations? Were you ever watchful of the signs of the highs and the signs of the lows? And how much of a difference is there, if you like, between those highest points and those lowest points?
It's huge. I mean, it doesn't, with bipolar, with Rich's bipolar, because it's so, everyone's mental health illness is so unique to them. So Rich wouldn't go manic high and then depressive low in one day. The manic high would ride for weeks and weeks till they got to the point of extreme high. And then the manic low would go over weeks and weeks. So the signs were so small every single day, it would impound a little bit more. Does that make sense? It wasn't like 1 minute he was fine and the next minute he wasn't. Bipolar doesn't tend to work like that. And everyone's moods are different anyway. Some people are quite level-headed. Some people are up and down. And that's your personality, that's who you are. Bipolar, for me, it sort of puts a magnifying glass over certain elements of your personality and will magnify that by 100. So if you, like Rich, he had an incredible job in Sydney, and he was about to buy this 1.2 million place in Sydney. He had this incredible job and he had to come home because his dad was sick. So when Rich said he was buying £1 million house when he was living with me, you kind of sit there going, really? But then because he's done it before, you just like, is that what you're doing, babes? Are you sure? And he was actually on the phone to architects trying to buy £1 million house. That was his manic high. He could take on the world. He could do whatever he wanted. His manic low, he couldn't even get off the sofa. And sometimes he'd think that, even the pigeons were out to get him. It was like, so, but those extremes would happen months in between. It wouldn't happen on the same day. But trying to manage that was hourly. Every single hour you were managing how Rich was. Was he drinking too much? Had he taken his medication that morning, that afternoon, that evening? How was he feeling? What was he doing? What was he up to? Yeah, it's full time.
The living with the highs thing is such I think, an interesting side, because there's almost a presumption that those are the easier times, but actually what you're describing there is something which is sort of fraught with inherent dangers in itself for completely different reasons, but nevertheless behaviour which may or may not be unsustainable over a long period of time.
Of course. And the thing is, bipolar is the most easily manageable illnesses of them all. Once you get your medication right, you can have an amazing, fulfilled life on it. Not all elements of bipolar is destructive, because you do have more confidence. You will do things that you wouldn't normally do because you don't have that fear in place. So it can be, if you embrace it. But yeah, the medication, you do need the medication, and it's something you need to take for the rest of your life. But if you were diabetic, you would need to take medication for the rest of your life. So it's just the same thing.
So the suicide attempt at was it 36, mid-30s?
So he was, Rich was 36, yeah.
And then the diagnosis came after that one?
Yes, it did. So we had to spend 72 hours in PDU, and then it was because of that they came on with the diagnosis of bipolar 1.
What was Rich's reaction to the diagnosis?
Relief. Because now he knew what it was, and everyone else, his family now, oh, this is the problem. So it was just a total relief. And now the doctors were going to prescribe medication for this and help him with this. And he was assigned a psychiatrist and a psychologist. So, yeah, just to get that diagnosis was amazing, and something that he should have got years and years before.
do you get a sense that maybe that wait for the diagnosis had a long-term impact that went beyond that and beyond that first suicide attempt?
Of course, definitely. If he'd been diagnosed in his 20s and he'd been medicated and, he'd been to CBT, so he had all the tools to be able to deal with the bipolar, it never would have got to crisis point. Definitely. It just, yeah.
I think people presume that once a diagnosis is made that systems kick in, but I guess when those systems kick in, there are still waiting times, there are still waiting lists as well. Was there a frustration that actually once the diagnosis was there, things then didn't maybe happen as quickly as you'd hoped?
Yeah, definitely. The cruel irony is the week that he passed away, so that was, 13, 14 months after diagnosis, the week he passed away, that was when all his treatment was coming in, that week. And that's how long he had to wait. That's how long we all had to wait. None of us had any support. He had the support of his psychologist, and every now and then he needed a team to come in. Home treatment team had to come in and step in as well. But yeah, there was nothing else. So yeah, we were all hanging around waiting for that to happen, and it was frustrating. And unfortunately, it was too late for Rich.
I mean, it's a tragic set of circumstances, Sarah, that you've gone through, and that Rich and obviously your families have gone through as well. And it feels like there, from what you've just been saying, it was so close to sort of getting through that next point, that next moment that would have taken Rich to the next stage as well. Yeah. During that time, did you get a sense that Rich was struggling? Was it a different Rich? Was it still, the Rich that you knew and loved in that period of time?
I always saw Rich for who he was, and whenever he had his manic high or his manic low, I still saw him for who he was. It was still there. And if he was acting out, he was a big guy, so I'm sure that would be scary for anyone else to see, but I knew him. You looked in his eyes and it was still him, always. And the cruel irony was the week that he passed away, he'd had a meeting with a psychiatrist and psychologist on the Tuesday, and it was a really positive meeting. He was looking to the future. He was fine. And then he passed away on the Wednesday. Unfortunately, his body gave up.
We've got Sarah Sadler with us on Radio City Talk and on Mental Health Monday. The story moves on into boxing now.
It does.
Was it boxing something that Rich was into? Was he a fan of it? Was it something he'd sort of partook in himself? He
did, yeah. And before he passed away, he was actually training to do one last fight. So he absolutely loves the sport. And I think anyone with any kind of mental health issue, they try and do something to focus the mind. And boxing's amazing for that sense of training, the community that you have around you. He loved the sport. I wasn't so much of a fan, but I've got to say that now I am. Definitely. The boxing community has just been absolutely incredible. So supportive.
So he was sort of mid-30s. So was the boxing something that he was aware of, maybe thinking, I'm going to be too old for it soon because it's a young man's game, but I do fancy one last big fight?
Yeah, he fancied one big fight. Yeah, one last fight. Yeah, he was a bit like, I'm a bit old for this, but he wanted to do one last fight and he wanted to do it for charity. So I'm going to honour that wish and give him his one last fight.
We're going to give you the details in just a few moments' time about the fight itself, how you can get involved as well, and this incredible sort of support that has sort of wrapped itself around Sarah and the work that she's been doing as well. We'll tell you where the ticket sales, the money goes to as well, because it all goes to charity, a charity we've already mentioned on the programme so far today. There's a charity boxing event which we can tell you about, the dates, the ticket prices, and there's plenty of people involved in it as well. We've got all the information on the way. It's Mental Health Monday on Radio City Talk. We've got Sarah's story today, and if people want to get involved on the programme, they can drop your emails in, mick@radiocity.co.uk. That's mick@radiocity.co.uk. Just by emailing doesn't mean you automatically get a ticket into the show, but often we do invite people onto the programme off the back of those emails. mick@radiocity.co.uk.
Mental Health Monday with Mick Coyle.
Radio City Talk.
We're hearing Sarah's story on the programme this week. She's in the process of organising a charity boxing event. She's been sharing the story of her fiancé, Rich, who was living with bipolar. She shared that story and has told us an incredible testimony of the life that she's led in the last few years and the life she's now leading in organising this charity boxing event. It can be complex. These, you got to become logistics experts in organising these. It looks as if you got a lot of people on side in terms of helping out and coming around to help you make the One Last Fight event actually take place.
I tell you what, there's no way I could have done all this on my own. I have an incredible team of people around me that are so invested, and it didn't dawn on me until after I started the process that the boxing community could have turned around and said, who's this trying to organise an event? We organise events all the time. And I've just sort of walked in and said, hi, let's create an event. So for me to have all this support, they totally have invested in this. The guys are just incredible, absolutely incredible. So I'm just so grateful for everyone that is involved in this.
There's loads of information up on Facebook, and we'll give people the link through our social media so people can find out more about it. But the date is the 27th of May. This is a Sunday.
Yes.
And One Last Fight, it's a charity boxing event. Where's it taking place?
It's at the Tivoli in Buckley. Proper sticky floor gym. Everyone's all going to love it. The club is incredible. So, yeah, it's a nice big space. Hopefully we can get about 400 people in there. We've got 400 tickets to sell. It's £20 a ticket. And we've got... Actually, I went down to one of the gyms. We've got a couple of gyms that are help training the guys. One is Buckley Boxing Gym. And the other one is Pro Body as well. And they're training all the guys. And... the guys that we've got fighting are incredible. I was quite shocked. I thought it was going to be a lot like middle-aged men, coming in. And no, we've got some awesome fighters in there. So it's going to be an amazing night.
How are you going to sort of represent Rich within the night itself? Obviously, it's there because of him and his plans to get back into the ring as well. How do you hope that people associate the event with Rich?
Try and say this without getting emotional. So we've had a belt made. So the last fight is going to be 5 rounds. 2 guys are going to be going for the belt. So I hope this belt then will stay within the industry. But I've actually got a song played, because they play music as you walk in. So I'm actually going to walk in with Richard's gloves. Sorry.
You don't have to apologise at all.
And so we're going to do that.
Excellent. I think that's a wonderful and fitting tribute as well. The poster is quite something, and I know you're artistically minded yourself in terms of the work that you do now, and the poster is quite something. This is like a classic old school gentleman preparing for a boxing fight. Does that represent Rich?
Yes, it does. Look at him. Isn't he amazing?
There's really great artwork there. Though.
It is, yeah. So my friend did that for me from... What's that? Studios there?
Obsidian Studios.
There we go. So he's a tattoo artist and he designed that for me and he was so amazed. I just reached out to him. And he's based on the Wirral. So, yeah, isn't it cool?
Loads of people involved in it. Applegate, Lux, Red Shoe, Obsidian Studios and John Sellers as well. The Tivoli, Buckley, £20 for a ticket there. Doors open at 5. How many fights are you going to have on
We're going to have a minimum of 10. But we have so many guys, it could even be up to 14. But we definitely have a minimum of 10. So on the night, we could have guys might pull out the last minute or they might not be fit enough to fight. But we definitely got enough guys for 10.
Brilliant stuff. And in terms of yourself, Sarah, with this, I mean, you've lived through this situation now, and you've seen the sort of the legacy, or you're giving a legacy to Rich in his life as well. And as you've been sort of looking to speak to people have been opening up to you as well. Have you been surprised by that? Often on this program, we hear different reactions, how people respond differently to somebody's death. If mental health has become an issue within their life, and sometimes community can close down, sometimes it can really open it up. It seems as you found a really open community here, even if it's just in the boxing fraternity there. Have you been surprised by how open people have been to talking to you? No.
Very surprised, yeah. I think this has resonated with so many men. All the guys that I've spoken to about this, because I literally am like a one-woman campaign going around saying to everyone, you do know this is the biggest killer for men under the age of 45. You do know that every 2 hours a guy is dying because of mental health, and it's not always suicide. Sometimes it's because he's drinking or he's taking drugs to try and self-medicate. Sometimes his body just gives up. Every 2 hours. That statistic alone is so scary. You combine cancer, heart disease, accidents, mental health kills more men. And yet it's the biggest secret No one's talking about it. And I found that when I'm talking to guys, they are then offloading onto me and they're telling me about their story, or whether they know someone who has committed suicide, or they know a friend who is struggling, or they're telling me what's happening with them. And they didn't need very much. They just needed a little invite. That's all they needed. There was nothing out there for guys. No support there for guys. They say reach out, you can go to Mind. I think it's great for the women. We can go to these communities and we can do arts and crafts on a table. A guy's already feeling like less of a man anyway. Let's not do that even more. And I think we need something in place where guys feel comfortable enough to go somewhere and say, it's okay to not be okay. And it's okay to struggle. And it's okay to say that without someone turning around saying you just need to man up. And I think guys feel like that's what they need to do. So I have found that guys, every time I've talked about it, guys sort of go a bit quiet, and you can just tell it's resonating deeply with it. This is so needed.
Absolutely. Absolutely amen to that. And as well, I think you're so articulate in the way that you talk about it as well.
I feel like I'm rambling right now. I'm right.
Yeah, absolutely are. But that's why people will go, oh, she gets it.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things, that there are so few people who talk about it, that often when people do talk about it, the connections are almost there and are almost, instant. But, that idea of man up, there was an example in the news in the last 24 hours, last sort of 48 hours or so. And it was a really prominent sports person talking about Ant McPartlin. And Ant McPartlin talking about addiction, and obviously got himself caught up in a drink driving incident, which he, I'm sure he absolutely regrets now, and spoke openly about regretting as well. But this is a guy who's talked about his mental health.
Yeah.
And this sports star, who I think had even worked with Ant McPartlin, was going, oh, you can't be running off to rehab.
Wow.
You can't be running off to rehab every time you get a problem. You need to pull yourself together and man up. Yeah. And that was in a news story, in a national newspaper, and it was like the third or fourth paragraph. And I thought, that is not just, poor journalism. It's actually reckless journalism.
Detrimental. Absolutely detrimental, yeah.
Because I thought that idea, if someone was to read that and go, oh, actually, I can't run off to rehab, which is... in other words, which is go and get the help which I require. Yeah. Don't go and get the help that you need. Deal with it yourself and man up, be more of a man about it. Yeah. And you think, like, you can't, how can you put that in a national newspaper? And I'll say it was Carl Fogarty, he's a Superbike star, and it was in the Daily Star.
Wow.
And you just think, they should know better, particularly when you look at the sort of the readership of the Daily Star, which would be largely working class people. And there was no quote further down which then said, oh, actually, fellas, if you do have problems, rehab, professional services, if you can get to them, get to them.
Exactly.
It might actually save your life. And also this idea that you're more of a man if you don't seek help.
Yeah.
Is just a nonsense. But also, you can say it and think, oh, it's a little bit old-fashioned. But also, you can say and think, well, men are dying.
Exactly.
As a result of this attitude.
That's it. And if we get rid of that attitude, a lot more men will be saved. A lot more men. Every 2 hours, if you can just take anything from it, every 2 hours because of that attitude. And if a guy is reaching out to someone and you sit there and listen to him and really hear him, and not sit there and give advice like, just be grateful for what you've got, man up, keep quiet.
Yeah, I likened to it on social media, which I got some stick for, but I said, basically, if this guy falls off his superbike and breaks his leg, and we just go,
man
pull
up.
yourself together, mate, man up.
You'd
go, no, go and get a professional, go and get a medical advice, and go and get yourself sorted, and don't come back until you are fixed.
Until you're fit, or you could just think positive thoughts and your leg will fix itself. Just be positive and grateful. It doesn't work like that.
And in terms of sort of making connections with men, sorry, this sounds a bit odd. You've been invited to go and speak in front of a large organisation.
I know. So last Saturday, I was able to get a meeting with Unite the Union at Broughton Airbus, and I went in there in front of all the members there, pretty much just asking for a few £100 to help sponsor the event, maybe sponsor a table, or maybe just sponsor the ring. And only wanted like £300, walked out the room, came back in, and they were like, okay, so we're going to give you £300 for the ring, and we're also going to give you £400 for the doctors, and we're also going to sponsor one of my fighters for £100, and we're also going to buy 20 tickets. So they literally wrote out a cheque for £1,500. it's just one of those moments where you're just like, wow, because they were totally invested in what it was that I was saying. So anyway, when they wrote out the check and then started rambling on again about male mental health, because I'm telling everyone about it, and you could literally hear a pin drop at the end of it.
It's not rambling on, by the way. Articulate, remember.
Thank you. I'm articulate. I am articulate. I'll just keep saying that. And you could hear a pin drop because it resonated with every single guy in that room. Every single guy. And so the chairman said, I'm going to be a bit cheeky. Can you come back in? And there's going to be a meeting with about 60, 70 people there. I think that they need to hear what you've just said. So, yeah, I'm going to be going back in and talking more about men's mental health. And I just hope that maybe huge organisations like Airbus will put something in place within their factories that guys can go to and talk. I mean, it doesn't need to be a counsellor. It just needs to be sit down, a cup of coffee. Let's just have a chat. That's all they need. If I've got to go around every single business and sort of raise this, then that's what I'll do. I think the more people that hear it, the more we make this conversation normal, the more lives are going to be saved.
And also a sign may be that actually companies are open to that idea of somebody coming in and talking. Now, you're there because, you requested the meeting and you were looking for 300 quid.
Yeah.
You end up with, 1,500 quid and, a speaking part in front of, 70 members of staff. And I'm sure many more will be there on the day itself. But actually, that just goes to show that, we're not completely blinkered, that companies and unions aren't closed off to this discussion of mental health, but it's about finding the right person to tell the right kind of stories and to make those connections.
That's it, yeah. I think because I've lived through it and I've had that personal experience from a man's point of view. I mean, bang on wood, I've never really suffered with mental health. I've been okay. All I had was like the baby blues. But to see Rich and through Rich's eyes and hear the things that he said, I wouldn't want another guy to go through what he went through. I wouldn't want another family to go through what we've been through. If this resonates with one guy, if it makes him reach out and hopefully reaches out to the right person that really hears him, then my job's done.
Thank you for your time today, Sarah. Really appreciate that. And also, don't discount the baby blues as well, which you go
I wouldn't discount that.
No, not at all.
I'm just saying, thank God that's like the extreme of anything that I've ever had to go through.
Thank you so much for sharing your story as well. The details again, Sunday the 27th of May, Tivoli, Buckley. In Buckley, the £20 standard tickets are available now. Are you doing it mainly through Facebook? Is that the best place for people to get tickets?
Yes, it is, yeah.
It's amazing Facebook for that, isn't it?
Oh, it's awesome.
What's the best thing to type in to find it as quickly as possible? Is it One Last Fight? Is that the best way of doing it?
Type in One Last Fight.
There is a specific link which we'll actually get up on our social media as well. But people use social media in all kinds of different ways. Doors are open from 5 o'clock. First fight at 6 o'clock. And how many fights you say you've got?
About 10, so we'll be finishing so the last fight's going to be about midnight. That's going to be the best fight.
Brilliant stuff. Have a wonderful night as well. I'm sure many people will support it as well. Do let us know how you get on as well when you start sort of doing these talking tours.
And it's going for Mind. I don't think we've pointed that. It's all going to go to Mind. Yeah, it's going to go to Mind. And hopefully, if we sell all the tickets, we should raise about £8,000, which would be amazing if we could.
Absolutely. Sarah, thank you for your time today. Thanks for sharing your story on Radio City Talk. Mental Health Monday is every Monday here on Radio City Talk, talking about mental health. If you've got events that you want to talk about, do send details in, mick@radiocity.co.uk. That's mick@radiocity.co.uk. That's my email address. We're also up and about on social media as well. Use the hashtag Mental Health Monday and you can tweet us at Radio City Talk, and we could be talking about your event next week or in future weeks. Don't forget as well, Jake Mills joins us for Mental Health Extra. We'll be having that conversation Tuesday. That's tomorrow from 2:15 as we talk through a whole host of other mental health issues, including more of your mentions as well for those who took part in the London Marathon and raised money for mental health charities. More than happy to give them a mention as well. That email address, I mentioned it already a couple of times, mick@radiocity.co.uk.
Mental Health Monday
On Radio City Talk.
with Mick Coyle.
Tackling the stigma.
Radio City Talk.